In the blistering heat of Utah's summer sun, a veil of mystery hung heavy over the rugged terrain of Blind Frog Ranch. Tucked in the Uinta Basin and surrounded by towering sandstone cliffs and ancient cottonwoods, the land pulsed with secrets as old as time. The air held a weight of anticipation, thick with legends passed down through generations, whispers of hidden treasure, lost civilizations, and inexplicable phenomena. This time, it wasn't just rumors fueling the fervor. For decades, local lore had hinted at the presence of Aztec gold, not just a few scattered coins, but a fortune hidden away in a subterranean labyrinth, guarded by the unforgiving terrain and nature itself. Now, a new team of seasoned treasure hunters, armed with cutting-edge technology and age-old determination, had arrived at Blind Frog Ranch to uncover what others had failed to find. The search began at sunrise. The expedition team, composed of geologists, explorers, and survivalists, had studied every satellite image, pored over ancient maps, and scoured the cryptic journals of early Spanish missionaries. Patterns began to emerge, repeating references to a serpent's mouth, shadow lines on the canyon wall that shifted with the seasons, and coordinates pointing not to the obvious, but to the forgotten. A small, unassuming cave concealed behind a thicket of sagebrush and brambles. Reaching the cave's entrance required more than just stamina. The landscape was treacherous. Jagged rock formations jutted out like the ribs of some slumbering beast. Every step had to be measured. Snakes and scorpions darted underfoot. But none of it dissuaded the team. Their mission pulsed in their veins like a war drum. As they finally reached the cave's mouth, partially obscured by fallen stone and years of wind-blown debris, a wave of reverent silence washed over them. The entrance was narrow, no more than a fissure in the rock face, easily overlooked. But the readings were conclusive. Behind this crevice lay a system of tunnels stretching deep into the earth. The air within was still and cool, thick with the scent of mineral-rich stone and damp soil, the scent of time itself. Once inside, the descent began. The team's headlamps pierced the darkness, revealing a corridor shaped not by chance, but by deliberate hands. Walls bore faint carvings, zigzag patterns, stylized serpents, and depictions of figures bearing sun discs and staffs. The craftsmanship was unlike anything native to Utah. This, the archaeologist among them insisted, hinted at foreign origin, perhaps even Aztec influence. The idea seemed impossible. And yet, the deeper they went, the more undeniable it became. They encountered natural traps, collapses, and strange, almost ritualistic arrangements of stones and relics. At one point, a narrow bridge of rock had to be crossed over a seemingly bottomless chasm. Suspended in the darkness, every creak and echo felt like the breath of the cave itself watching them, measuring their resolve. Deep within the labyrinth, the air changed. A sulfuric scent lingered, and bioluminescent moss glowed faintly along the walls, guiding them like ancient guardians. Then, at last, they found it. A chamber sealed with a slab of black volcanic rock, marked with a single golden emblem, a serpent consuming its own tail. It took hours to remove the barrier. Behind it, the chamber opened wide, circular, and silent. Gold glinted faintly from stacked ceremonial masks, sun medallions, and chalices that had long since been forgotten. It wasn't just treasure, it was history fossilized in gold. The walls bore depictions of journeys from the south, scenes of warriors, sacrifices, and maps of stars unfamiliar to northern hemispheres. It was an archive from a time lost to dust and decay. In one corner of the chamber stood a plinth bearing a strange obsidian cube. Touching it revealed hidden compartments and a scroll, brittle with age. Though the writing had faded, it held unmistakable glyphs, Aztec pictographs mingled with unknown symbols. The cube was a key, they believed, to more than just treasure. It hinted at an entire network of hidden sites, perhaps even a migration route or sacred path taken by fleeing Aztecs in the wake of Spanish conquest. But with the discovery came something else. The cave trembled. The disturbance seemed natural at first. Loose rocks settling, a distant crack. But it grew. Vibrations reverberated through the stone like a warning bell. Dust fell in thin curtains. Lights flickered. The geologist cried out as a wall behind them shifted, revealing a secondary tunnel, this one narrower, darker, and filled with skeletal remains. Skulls, bones arranged in patterns, hands folded across chests, a crypt untouched by light for centuries. One skeleton bore a headdress of quetzal feathers, now faded to shadows. This was no ordinary tomb. It was a guardian's chamber. Perhaps even a king's resting place. The team withdrew, cautiously intensified the closer they came to the surface. Theories abounded: geothermal instability, gas pockets, or ancient engineering triggered by trespass. Whatever the cause, the cave wanted them as they emerged back into the daylight, shaken, coated in centuries-old dust and ore. News of the find spread like wildfire. Experts from museums and universities flocked to Blind Frog Ranch. But the team remained tight-lipped about the cube, the glyphs, and the deeper tunnels hinted at in the scroll. Too much had been lost in history to risk another rush. Greed, they knew, would follow quickly. Satellite scans revealed new anomalies beneath the ranch. Cavern systems stretching far beyond what anyone had suspected. The cave they found was just one node in a sprawling network. The team began planning a second expedition, this time prepared for seismic activity, environmental hazards, and perhaps even cultural resistance. After all, the land was sacred, and its guardians, whether spiritual or geological, were not to be taken lightly. Speculation erupted. Could this be connected to the legend of Montezuma's treasure? Some said yes. Others argued it was older, perhaps the remnants of a civilization predating the Aztecs themselves, who had simply claimed its legacy. But one fact remained. The cave held gold, and something far more valuable. It held answers. Not all of them welcome. The ranch, once a quiet mystery known only to locals and paranormal enthusiasts, became the epicenter of a global enigma. Blind Frog Ranch, with its strange lights, magnetic anomalies, and tales of UFOs and cryptids, had now offered something tangible, a bridge between myth and reality. But as with all treasures, the deeper you dig, the more buried truths you unearth, and some truths are buried for a reason. The team returned weeks later. The cave had shifted. The entrance, now collapsed, left only one way in, a narrow vertical shaft exposed by a rock slide. It descended into darkness like a well with no bottom. But readings showed the same gold signature beneath, and the glyphs from the queue had aligned with new coordinates, pointing to a second chamber deeper underground. The descent began anew. As they rappelled into the void, the last light of Utah's desert sun blinked out behind them. What lay beneath would either rewrite history or bury it forever. In the silence of the earth, past layers of time and stone, the hunt for Aztec gold at Blind Frog Ranch was only just beginning. Dust spiraled in the dry air as the sun cast long shadows across the jagged landscape of Blind Frog Ranch. Hidden in the Uinta Basin of northeastern Utah, the ranch sprawled over acres of rock, sagebrush, and secrets. It was a land whispered about in hushed tones, home to magnetic anomalies, strange sightings, and now, the latest obsession of a group of determined treasure hunters. They came not for stories or legends, but for something more tangible. A recently unearthed Spanish manuscript had ignited their search, a weathered map said to trace the path of fleeing Aztecs as they escaped the conquistadors, carrying with them sacred artifacts and immeasurable gold. Its symbols and riddles pointed not to the mountains of Mexico, but inexplicably to Utah, a place thought to be far removed from the golden empire of Tenochtitlan. Guided by both history and instinct, the team of explorers had zeroed in on Blind Frog Ranch, whose reputation for the unexplained only added urgency to their mission. Satellite scans and electromagnetic surveys confirmed something unnatural buried beneath the surface. Anomalous voids, chambers, cavities no one could account for. And then there were the local legends, stories of lost civilizations, unexplained lights in the sky, and a network of caves that few dared to enter. After weeks of grueling groundwork, the entrance to the hidden cave was found, partially collapsed and obscured by decades of landslides and erosion. The discovery came after following a set of unusual rock formations believed to align with constellations from Aztec star charts. The alignment pointed to a cliff face nestled behind a thicket of juniper and scrub oak. Beneath a pile of fallen boulders, the mouth of the cave gaped like a forgotten secret waiting to be remembered. Here in Tao, the team descended into darkness. The cave's interior was jagged, raw, and alive with echoes of the past. Strange etchings marked the walls, not petroglyphs typical of the region, but intricate carvings of serpents, suns, and stepped pyramids. The deeper they went, the more unnatural the architecture became. Sections of the tunnel appeared carved with deliberate symmetry, suggesting hands guided by knowledge now lost to time.